Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the Zaporizhzhia direction, because during the previous night of the Moscow time of Ukrainian time, the Russian sources began spreading the information that Ukrainians launched a full-scale offensive operation in this area. And the most important thing is that the Ukrainians were attacking the territory of Zaporizhzhia direction not through the village of Rabotino or Orekhov itself. The Ukrainians were trying to attack the Russian forces inside of the Energodar, the city with the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, through the Dnipro river, or the water or river that left from Dnipro river that used to be in 2022 and at the beginning of the special military operation. So as you can see, this is the fresh satellite pictures of this area. As you can see, according to this map and according to many maps, this territory used to be filled with water. This was something like a Kakhovka water reservoir, and now this is exactly what's left from that big water reservoir. So basically, this is no longer a real barrier for any forces, neither for the Russian nor for the Ukrainians, to cross this area and to conduct a full-scale offensive. But by the morning of the local time of the 21st of August, we haven't received even a single confirmation that the Ukrainians began anything. Anyway, we're continue following this situation, and telling the truth, something tells me that most likely the Ukrainians will try to attack in this direction, because everything is prepared for this. They still haven't shown us in game the F-16s and many other different types of weapons that Ukrainians have. Now let's move to the south, Donetsk direction. We have additional updates from the village of Kostyantynivka. If you remember, just yesterday we talked that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, established complete control over the northeastern part of the city of the village of Kostyantynivka, and by this attack the Russians cut the TO-524 road in this part, and we made the conclusion that most likely during the next few days the Russians will begin offensive towards the gardening Operation Shakhtar. And today the Ukrainian sources published the video, the sources of 79th Brigade published the video of how they were FPV droning the Russians in this area. During this video we might find significant number of geolocations and episodes. Some of them were geolocated, and one of the FPV drone attack took place exactly in this point. The Russian soldier was located exactly in this point, and he was attacked by the Ukrainians. Based on this video we have adjusted the map and we colored everything to the east in the color of Russian control. Furthermore, as for different mappers, they added significantly more territories on the Russian control, and also these fields were captured. So summarizing everything, we can make a conclusion that currently the Russians began a full-scale offensive operation towards the gardening Operation Shakhtar, and most likely this part of Kostyantynivka is going to fall in the very near future. Now let's move further to the Pokrovsk direction. We have a lot of very interesting updates. Yesterday we start receiving reports that the Russians answered the village of Komyshivka, that there were very heavy clashes, and that this morning after the night the sources reported that Ukrainians abandoned their positions toward the village of Tikhe. But the thing is that the Russians are saying that right after the Ukrainians retreat, they continue moving further in the southern direction, and currently, according to different sources, there are very heavy clashes right now exactly in the village of Tikhe. So most likely, according to all these reports, the Ukrainians would be forced to fall back further in direction of Kalinovo, and maybe here the Ukrainians will try to hold the Russians as long as possible. So summarizing everything, we can make a conclusion that most likely during the next day, during the next 24 hours, the Russians will capture these territories, and they will basically improve their positions further in the southern direction. The main target of the Russians, at least in this direction, in this stage of the offensive operation, is to get the road M30 and to capture Karlovka. So to maintain the line of combat contact, to shorten it, and so on. Now let's move to Novohrodivka. As you can see, during the previous night we got a lot of very interesting geolocations. First of all, we start receiving the first geolocations from inside of the city itself. During the previous days we got just one geolocation. This one, in this video that was published on the 19th of August, we can see how the Ukrainian tank left left the city with the purpose to attack the Russian offensive forces, but the tank was discovered and destroyed. And as for today, we start receiving lots of updates. In this photo, this is not the video, this is just the photo, we can see that the entire block of the city was set on fire as a result of Russian offensive, maybe as a result of Russian artillery strike, and this fire took place exactly in this part of Novohrodivka. In this video, we can see a series of Russian FPV drone attacks on the Ukrainian forces inside of the, let's say, southeastern part of the city. As you can see, the Russians are storming exactly this part, and we have another FPV drone attack in the western part of the city as well. So, summarizing everything, and according to pro-Ukrainian mappers, during the previous night, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly along the railways, and basically the Russians reached the outskirts of the city itself. And by the morning of the 21st of August, the distance between edge Russian positions and the first buildings inside of Novohrodivka is less than 300 meters. Now let's move further to the north. We got some geolocation from the village of Zhuravka. In this video we can see the Russian soldiers who raised the flag somewhere between the buildings, and this video was geolocated, the building was geolocated, and this video confirms additional Russian progress along the village of Zhuravka. Yet we haven't received anything that can confirm the Russian presence in the village of Krutый Yar, but according to different mappers, this village was captured by the Russians a few days ago. During the previous night, the Russians conducted massive missile strike in the city of Mirnograd in the southern part. This is the consequences of Russian missile strike. The Russians attacked the coal mine, and we have also some pictures in this let's say post. We can see the consequences of attack. Most likely the Russians attack something like a temporary positions, temporary deployment point of armed forces of Ukraine. Now let's move further. Let's talk about Toretsk, New York agglomeration. We have added very interesting polygon, as you can see, to map. According to information we have, the Russians did capture the entire Novgorodsk, but according to the Ukrainians, the Russians not captured the entire Novgorodsk, but they managed to reach the, let's say, the original borders of Novgorodsk. But according to pro-Ukrainian sources, pro-Ukrainian mappers, there are still Ukrainian garrison in the central part, in the heart of Novgorodsk, in the heart of New York, and we are talking about this industrial zone. So, summarizing everything, the Russians managed to create a corridor and to encircle the Ukrainians exactly in this part. Maybe the Ukrainians believe that they can conduct the blocking operation by counterattacking the Russian forces, but something tells me the Ukrainians will not be able to do this, and we are expecting when the Ukrainians will surrender in this industrial zone. Let's talk about Druzhba. We have additional progress on the ground that was confirmed by pro-Ukrainian mappers, by pro-Ukrainian sources. In this video, we can see the Russian soldiers who were moving along the streets, along the buildings of the city of Druzhba, and that they were FPV droned by the Ukrainians. This event took place, all these events from that video took place somewhere here. Some of the episodes were geolocated, and one of the episodes took place exactly in this point. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map and added additional area under complete Russian control. Now let's move further. We have some changes on the ground according to different mappers in the city of Druzhba itself and in the vicinity of the Mayorsk railway station. So additional block was added to contested area. Now let's move further and let's talk about northern directions. First we're going to talk about the Kursk offensive operation. According to information we have, during the previous 24-48 hours, the Ukrainians managed to improve their positions and to get deeper inside of the territory of Russian Federation from 28 till 35 kilometers. And according to Syrsky, the Ukrainians established complete control over more than 93 settlements in this area. As for changes on the ground, we do have some changes, and according to information we have, the Ukrainians managed to capture the village of Martinovka completely. We got this report yesterday, but that was posted and reported by different mappers without geolocations that can confirm this. And as for this video, we can see the video how the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces to the west, to the east of Martinovka, right exactly in this point, which confirms that Ukrainians have already moved through Martinovka itself and Mykolaiivka. Based on this video, we have adjusted this part of the map. The Ukrainians continue their offensive operation towards the village of Malaya Loknya. During the previous 24 hours, during the previous night, we got additional video how the Ukrainians were attacking the Russian forces in this point. I'll remind you that according to the map of Syrsky, this territory is encircled by the Ukrainians, and the Russians have some garrison in this part. Probably this is the former prison. Yes, this is the prison, former prison, and the Russian soldiers are inside of this prison, and the Ukrainians are storming this area. Once again, the territory behind Mala Loknya, all the cities and villages, according to Syrsky, were captured by the Ukrainians. The Russian sources published a photo from the city of Korynevo. The Russian soldier made a photo along the railways right exactly in this point, and by this photo the Russians are trying to confirm that they still control the western and the central part of the city. The Russians continue building additional pontoon bridges along the same river. I'll remind you that just during the previous week the Ukrainians destroyed 3 bridges along this river and 2 pontoon bridges, but the Russians are building more and more because they understand that the Ukrainians are going to start offensive operation in this direction very soon. On the other hand, the Ukrainians published additional video of how they were bombing and attacking the Russian forces inside of Tyotkina, and according to different sources, this is going to be the primary and the first target of the armed forces of Ukraine during the Glushkova offensive operation. On the other hand, we continue receiving updates about additional concentration of Belarusian forces along the border with Ukraine. So we can't tell for sure whether the Belarusians are going to join the special military operation or not, but obviously this activity will force the Ukrainians to keep some forces along the border, which will reduce the pressure in the Kursk direction. Also, this previous night we got additional updates about Putin. He visited for the first time since the 2011. He visited the region of Chechnya. Chechnya is the territory, small republic in the Russian Federation, the southern part. You are familiar with the special unit Akhmat and many different units that take part in the special military operation, and most of them were trained in this territory of Chechnya under the responsibility control of Ramzan Kadyrov, the head of Chechensk Republic, and Putin arrived with official visit to Chechnya. And people are saying that Putin arrived to Chechnya with the purpose to talk about the anti-terrorist activity in the southern part of Russia or something like this. But if you ask my opinion, I believe that Putin arrived in Chechnya with the purpose to ask Ramzan Kadyrov, the head of Chechnya, to introduce additional and more forces of special unit Akhmat along the border with Kursk with the purpose to stabilize the situation. So most likely he arrived there with this purpose. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds you we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, share my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.